Right, hi everyone, and welcome to the Halloween edition of the NL seminar. We are very grateful to have Ziyi Liu here with us today, presenting her work called InterIntent, Investigating Social Intelligence of LLMs via Intention Understanding in a Game Context. Ziyi Liu is a second-year PhD student at the University of Southern California, advised by Professor Ziyi Liu in the Lime Lab. Previously, she earned her master's degree at USC and was a research assistant in USC ISI's Inc. lab for 2 years under the guidance of Professor Sean Wren. Her research focuses on social intelligence and hallucination detection in human LLM interactions, particularly in evaluating LLM behaviors and aligning LLM values with those of humans. Her work is driven by 2 key questions. 1, how can we make interactions between models and humans more seamless? And 2, how can we ensure the faithfulness of LLMs and avoid hallucinations during interactions? So please welcome Ziyi Liu and enjoy her presentation.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction and thanks for inviting me. And also, it's a really nice meeting room. The views are so beautiful. So here today, I'm very honored to share my recent work. Just got accepted as EMRP 2024 main conference paper called InterIntent. So I will talk about what is intentional understanding and what is social intelligence and how can we incorporate all of this in an evaluation framework. So feel free to ask any questions and feel free to interrupt me, and any comments are welcome, any harsh comments are welcome. So please let me know if anything is unclear, let me know how should I improve my presentation. Thank you. So let's get started. So intention shapes our daily lives and guide us every day, even though sometimes we're not aware of it, but every minute we have some intentions of doing something, and it could be very low level intentions I want to negotiate for a lower price, or it's a goal for a day I intend to eat healthily today, or it's intention for your life I intend to see the goodness around me. So intention we use that every day, and interpreting others' intention is an important part of social intelligence. Take an example here. The little girl, she wants the guy to invite her to an exclusive event, but she cannot ask directly. So she said, I heard about the event on Friday, must be amazing. I love to see what it's like sometime. And the guy's like, okay, I know you want to go, but I don't want to invite you. But the guy cannot say that directly. And she said, yeah, it should be fun. I will let you know how it goes. And maybe we can catch up after to hear all about it. So if I'm the girl and I hearing about this response is okay, you don't want me to go and you're just being polite. So this kind of social interaction is common in daily life. And it's important to have this kind of social intelligence, you can interpret others' intentions behind their behaviors and their speech. So there are already some previous work on the intentional understanding. So for example, intent detection and slot filling is already not a new topic. So it happens a lot when the large language model maybe act as a tool. For example, the queries what flights are available from Pittsburgh to Baltimore on Thursday morning. And the intent, here's the intent detection is a classification task. So they will choose the most relevant intent, oh, you want to ask for the flight info, and here are some slots from which city to which city and depart date and depart time. So this is a very early work of intent detection. And recently, since agent got popular, they also use agent to clarify humans' intention, because sometimes humans' query can be very ambiguous and they need to use the agent to ask for more information. So for example, the user said, locate the best yoga class in my city. And the system GPT here, he find out the user's task is vague because they didn't say which city you're in and is there any criteria or preference for the yoga class. So in this case, they sense it and ask for more questions to help to clarify the human's intentions. So better to understand what the human really wants. So these examples are more the large language model acts as a tool and to help the human to answer some question or maybe help to planning their schedule, something like that. But how should we link intentional understanding with social intelligence? Because we want to study social intelligence, and from psychology view, intentional understanding actually plays a very vital part of the social intelligence. So let's take a look at the social intelligence first. So recent work on social intelligence focuses a lot on theory of mind. I think many of you guys might heard this a lot. So I will just give a quick introduction of what is theory of mind. So here's give the example here. There are two characters, Sally and Annie. So they're in the same room. The Sally hides her marble in the box, and Sally lives. And Annie moves Sally's marble to the basket and then lives. And then you can ask so RMs like see all of this, and the large language model being asked a question like, when Sally returns, where does she look? So we call it first order belief. And what is second order belief is what Annie will think Sally will think the marble is in. So this is second order. And if we incorporate more people here, there will be like higher order belief. So currently there are some data sets are proposed to test this kind of models, theory of mind ability, and also in multimodality or like open-ended responses. However, social intelligence actually, it's also not a new topic. Like some previous tasks also relates to social intelligence, although they didn't directly say like, oh, this is about social intelligence. For example, sentiment analysis, right? And for example, culture analysis, and maybe like spontaneous dialogue or addressing some behavior like analysis. Those are actually all like belongs to part of social intelligence. However, most of works are static data set and they focus only on one aspect of social intelligence. But like since like ChatGPT is so popular and we talk with large language model like every day, so it is important to ground the large language model in a real-time conversation and to check their behaviors as it is more similar to human conversation. So, but social intelligence actually is a quite broad topic. So here is a searching results. I just search on Google like what's the aspects of social intelligence, and you can see like from very specific like social intelligence like active listening, or like a very broad topic like interpersonal skills or communication skills. So different sources have different definition of like what is social intelligence, and social intelligence can include many things. So how should we choose topics to study and incorporate them in one evaluation framework? So there are different ways to scale, and you can find different dimensions from different sources. Some people said that there are 5 main dimensions that you should focus on, like self-awareness, sympathy, metacognition, empathy, theory of mind. And some people say, oh, there are actually like 4 aspects like self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship management. And the third one is from Dee's paper. They categorize like the current NLP task into situational, cognitive, and behavioral. So like to combine all of these, and also we trying to align these aspects with psychology paper, because we want to find some reference from the psychology paper, right? So, so in the end, we choose to study situational awareness, self-regulation, which includes both metacognition and behavioral, self-awareness and theory of mind. These 4 aspects to study, and we found in some related psychology paper, we found out that this like 4 aspects can cover like most of the social intelligence. So how to choose a grounded and complicated environment to study? So what do we want for a test bed? As I said, we want to test in a real-time conversation. So we want the conversation or the test bed to be dynamic and interactive, and also complicated. It shouldn't be too easy. So some work studies the possibility of the large language models playing social games like Werewolf and Avalon, like I remember from like last year, like 2023 May, there's like more and more papers. They said, oh, I think this is the first paper like start working on this empirical study on the werewolf. And after that, there are more papers. They said, oh, how to improve the large language model game performance in this like social deception reasoning games. And in our work, we choose Avalon game because the main reason is I prefer this game. Yeah, I play this game a lot, and I think it's a really fun game. Like unlike Werewolf, like some people will get kicked off of the game. Like Avalon game, you can stay like till the very end of the game, so it's more interesting. And also LLM games, like most of the time, like 95% is purely based on the speech, on the conversation. So I think this makes it perfect for the large language model to play with. So is there anyone like don't know LLM game? Okay, I will give a basic mechanism like what it is. So usually the LLM game can include up to 10 players, but in our work, we just take the most simple setting, which is like 5 players, and there are 2 teams, and loyal team and evil team. So 3 loyal players, and 2 evil players, and there are 5 rounds. So every round they need to select like some players to do a task, and the goal is to win 3 out of 5 rounds. So if the loyal team like wins 3 out of 5 rounds, then the loyal team wins, and vice versa. And you can see that like the good side have like Merlin, Percival, like loyal servant, and evil side Morgana, Ascensi, and each of them have different functions and they have different information. So for loyal players, for evil player, they know who are loyal players, and loyal players don't. So loyal players only Merlin know who is evil, but Merlin cannot show himself. Because if assassin find out who's Merlin, like they win. So this is kind of like lot of like deception and need to hidden, and it's a very interesting game, and the function of roles are different.
Sorry, what is the action that people take? Is it like?
Oh yeah. So the action is that, for example, if it's the first round, we need to choose 3 players from this team to complete a task. So the way we complete a task is pretty easy. Like you just vote fail or succeed. And for the evil player, you can vote, you can choose either fail or succeed. Like if you want to hide yourself, you can choose succeed. Or if you think like you want to fail the best, you just choose fail. But for the loyal player, you can only choose succeed. So, but you don't know who votes this. Like you don't know, like they only see the final results. Yeah, and they only see like the final result, like how many people vote failure, how many people vote succeed, but you don't know who votes this. So they kind of need to use this kind of information. So
is there like are you supposed to like try to identify who's evil, who's good?
Yes, because in the final round they need. So for example, like for the first 4 rounds, like there are 2 success and 2 failures, and in the final round, if the loyal player want to win, they need to find all of the loyal players to make sure they're on the team. Otherwise, if the evil player is on the team, they will lose. Okay. Yeah, so it's like after a few rounds, like the loyal player need to find out like who are all of the loyal players, but also at the same time, evil player will also need to try with Merlin, because if they identify the Merlin, the evil player wins. Yeah, so interesting game. So here's a game pipeline, the environment. Here is the steps in 1 round. So for the steps in 1 round, we will have the summary of the previous round. We will ask those large language model to summarize like what's the vote results in the last round, what's the results, like is there any like important facts you want to include? And then we have discussion. So the discussion is just from the leader, they propose a team, and each of the other players just give their opinions 1 by 1. And the leader will reconsider the proposal and they will vote. So if most of the people vote agree on this proposal, then they will go on the quest execution. If not, they will go back to the discussion again. Then how to include the intentions? So here's the internal step for 1 row in the discussion phase. So yeah, it's very complicated because if the step is too simple, sometimes the model will just explicitly say, hey, I'm Merlin. Right? Yeah, sometimes they will just say that. So you need to let them think twice. For example, here is the current player is player 2, and for the player 2, the player 1 already say something, and they have the first order reasoning. So in the first order reasoning, they need to guess what is player 1's intention behind their speech, and we will provide intentions list for them to choose. So it's kind of like a classification task. We'll provide a list of like 20 intentions, like there's a possible intention they have, and you need to guess like what intention they have. And after the deductive reasoning, they will select the intentions for this round. So they select some intentions and they will have their first round of thinking and speaking. So they're thinking after the thinking and speaking should be aligned with the intention they select. And then they will have second order reasoning. So second order reasoning has nothing to do with intention, but it's important because second order means that how others will perceive my speaking, right? If I just directly say like, hey, I'm learning, then I'll be dead. So they need to think about this. And after second order reasoning, they got a chance to select the new intentions. And finally, they generate the final thinking and speaking. So only the final speaking will be visible to other players, but the whole internal thoughts we will still remain the whole internal thoughts for that specific player. Any questions?
So it'd be like specific prompt, like the LLM to do that second order reasoning.
Yeah. Lots of prompting. Yeah. So
why does Merlin expose himself when the rules explicitly say that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, even though we tell them the rules, like you shouldn't do that, but sometimes they just cannot help to, especially for GPT 3.5. They're just not that smart enough sometimes. Yeah, and so we do a lot of prompting. So especially because in the beginning we put the role information in the beginning because we want the speech just follow the sequence of what is happening, and if the conversation become too long, they will just forget who they are. Yeah, in the thinking sometimes the evil player will think, oh, I'm a loyal player, I should support loyal player. So they will forget their persona. So we need to add more prompt to remind them you're actually an evil player. Yeah.
Any particular models are much better at being receptive to all your instructions than others?
So sorry, what model?
Are there any particular models that you were using that were they always get it right, they never make any mistakes?
Not really. Yeah. But I didn't try the most recent one, GPT-4o, I guess. O1 is too slow. Well, right. Yeah. Yeah, but we used O1 later for the hallucination detection. I will talk about it later. So let's talk about the intention-centric evaluation.
Just one more question on that. So,
yes.
So is it an issue that they don't store the data, meaning they will only allow you to store so much data about who they are and what they've done in the past, or is it actually forget? Yeah.
So I think we just provide all the things in the prompt. So I think for larger model, just the context.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a limit. So that's why we use a summary. I think most of the time they got the summary right, because we tried a lot of prompting for summary, just to ask them to explicit to summarize some information. But still sometimes, because also there's also a moderator, there are also prompting, because for one player there's many internal steps, and sometimes they also got lots in the internal steps. Yeah.
Oh, so wait, when you say there's a limit, I mean there's the actual practical limit, and there's also the whether or not they pay attention after a certain point, right? So are you actually running up against a hard context limit where you actually have to truncate, or is it more that just it just stops paying attention after a certain length?
Oh, that's a good question. I think.
Thank you for rephrasing my question correctly.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's context limits. We cannot put the whole conversation. So yeah, we have to. Otherwise it would be super long.
What's your strategy to clipping then? Do you just clip the past?
No. We just use summary. So we just so usually for one round context will be won't be that long. Yeah, because it's only 5 people.
Then you take the prompt from before and then get a summary of it and use that as the history.
Yes.
Okay. Is the model's providing its own summary, or?
Yes, model provides
summary. That's a separate call.
Yeah.
I mean, you're choosing to make that call and get a summary. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But there's no way to explain the fact that it switches from evil to good or good to good. Meaning it's not like you took it out and said, well, I'm not going to tell you what you are. You got to figure it out yourself.
No, I think we still provide all the role information in the very beginning in the system prompt. That's all of the things the game rules and who they are in the system prompt. Yeah.
So I mean, sorry, just to dive in. Did you do any kind of error analysis where you see the model, or you see the output being like contradictory to what it should be doing, and then look at the prompt to see if the information was actually lost in the summary.
No, so for example, yeah, I will get back to it later. Yeah, I will explain this later. Yeah. So for the intention-centric evaluation, like we want to study like four research questions, like from a game player like perspective, like what intentions should I have for this game, and how should I plan out and implement my intentions, and am I aware of my own intentions, or can I read others' intentions? So these four questions related to each aspect of the social intelligence we study. So I will first introduce the definition, like the exact definition of the social intelligence we study, and then introduce how does we link the intention part with the social intelligence. So the first is situational awareness. So the situational awareness is the ability to perceive environmental elements over time and space. And in here, we want to understand like how well model can choose intentions based on the environment they perceive. So which is intention selection. And we assess so we just assess the situational awareness of the large model in social context by evaluating their social intention selection. So for example, here after first order, they have some basic reasoning, and they also like they have seen like speeches from other people and also the previous summary, and they need to choose the correct or maybe like reasonable intentions. So here's an example, like for example, the pair 2 just speak, and here's a pair 3. So pair 3, the servant, he said, I don't have any information. So at this point, I would just agree with the team proposal because I don't know. So which like it's okay, it's reasonable. But for Merlin, and the Merlin chose to express concerns because one player on the team was in the failed quest. But in the summary, like there is actually no failed quest. So this is round 2, and the previous rounds is successful. So there is no failed quest, and actually it happens a lot. Like they just choose these intentions, and so we consider this as this is like a failure of like situational awareness. So what is considered as lack of situational awareness? So
sorry, just over here. In this particular stage, is the idea that like they every role has a set of potential intentions that they can have.
Yeah.
And the point is that like based on the situation, everybody has to choose one particular thing that they're doing.
Yeah, they can choose like 2 to 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're limiting them.
Yeah.
To only select the things that they like have the power to try to select.
Yes. Yeah.
And the point is that like sometimes they choose inappropriately given context.
Yes. Got it. So for example, inconsistent with established facts. For example, when all the players have voted in the previous proposal and the player is sent to question why someone did not vote. And also inconsistent with role profiles, an evil player forgetting their identity and intending to mistakenly support the loyal side. And inconsistent with other intentions, like a player intends to pretend as Merlin and Percival like at the same times. So yeah.
So like especially in the inconsistent with role profiles thing, right? Like so I think you said that like an evil player can actually pretend to be loyal in order to mislead others. Right?
Yeah, so we'll check in their thinking process.
Right. So you're saying bad situational awareness if it's not that you like chose something wrong, but you chose something for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I will talk about the results later. So let's move on to the next one. It's self-regulation. So self-regulation involves guiding one's own thoughts, behaviors, and just how do they like require individuals to contribute to their own motivation. So we try to evaluate like how well a model can follow their intentions, and we call it intention following. So there's includes 2 parts, which is thinking, and we can call it planning, and speaking is implementing. So here's an example of what is a good self-regulation, what is a decent self-regulation, what is like not that good self-regulation. So for example, the intention is support team proposal, and the speaking is just say, oh yeah, I agree with it, and we think it's okay, it's not that good, but it's actually to follow the intention well. but if the intention is provide hints about the evil player from learning, this learning has some like information. And the speaking is, I will provide some hints to you about who might be evil. And we think, yeah, you follow the intention, but the speaking is not useful at all because it does not provide any information, especially learning is an important role. It should provide information for other players. So we feel like it's not that useful. And here's the evaluation criteria. So for example, here the given intention is express concern about the evil player from previous failed test. And the first score is that the content does not even mention the intentions, right? And the second is simply copy and paste intentions, like I express concern about the player from a failed quest. And it also happens. And the third is follow the intention but has wrong context information, which could be also considered as contextual hallucination. Like I suggest the leader should not include player 3 in the team as he failed the quest before. But the context is the previous team does not include player 3. Yeah. And the interesting thing that as long as it makes this hallucination of the following player will just buy it. It says, yeah, we agree with it. Like we shouldn't trust player 3. And the score 4 is the content follows the intention but lacks useful information. So I think some players should not be in the team as they're in the failed team before. So this is like too implicit, lack of information of which player. So we consider the perfect following should be, I suggest the leader reconsidering including player 1 as they are in a failed quest, so we cannot be sure of their loyalty. So very explicit.
Isn't 4 just a paraphrase of 2?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a little bit like a paraphrasing, but not like explicitly paraphrasing.
Right, it's weird that like, if you just literally copy and paste, I understand why that's bad.
Yeah.
But like the amount of information that is given is both not misleading and not helpful, right? And that is also true for 4, which is almost perfect score. It seems like a weird.
Yeah, I understand. So yeah, so I think when we I think for like 1 and 2, we just think has like 0 impact on games. And because for the intentions, they just copy and paste the intentions, yeah. But for 4, it's kind of like a rephrase of the intentions, but they still like provide a little bit of information, previous one have so in the for example, like some players should not be the team as in the failed team before, but it's just lack of information.
Okay.
Yeah. We also get the reviews maybe 3 is better than 4, but I think we consider it because of 3 has a counter impact on the game.
Perhaps in future work you could consider a 2-dimensional evaluation where you have 1-dimensional, like how much misinformation is provided, and others how much useful information is provided.
Yes. So I think later we are thinking after finishing this work, I was thinking maybe instead of scoring them, maybe just how many hallucinations, how informative it is. Yeah. And self-awareness is about how an individual understands their character, emotions, motives, and desires. So we ask the model to summarize their intentions from their thought process. We call it intention summarization. So it is a converse of the intention following. So it's actually interesting that sometimes if they ask them to summarize their intentions, they cannot do a really good job. So here's an example. So we separated the evaluation from the game pipeline as it is not necessary to play the game. And also we find out that in the beginning we put it in the game and we found out that if the prompting get too much, the model game performance will decrease. I feel like just too many redundant and unnecessary things in the context. So we will still provide some necessary information and here's your thinking and speaking, and can you summarize what's your intention? And here's a list of the intention you can choose from. And the final thing is theory of mind. It involves understanding others by attributing mental states to them. So previous theory of mind tasks will provide full context, so you know what's exactly happening for interpreting each other's mental states. So setting any test provides full context from a third-person perspective, but the difficulty is leveled up in our evaluation. The large language models are required to deduce players' intentions from their speeches only. So this is kind of like first-person perspective, and we call it intention guessing. And here's so intention guessing is also actually included in the first order thinking. You just need to guess other intentions, but we still separate them because we find out that the model sometimes cannot follow the instructions so well. Sometimes it's just missing some, like only maybe guess the player one's intention and not guessing like the other player's intentions. So here's the experiment setting. We run 40 games using GPT 3.5 and 5 games using GPT-4. So the main evaluation is on the GPT 3.5. The game number is not that much, but if we consider the total data points for the evaluation, because for one game there are many rounds, and every rounds like there are many intention selection following. And for the intention selection, intention following, since it's a little bit subjective, so they are evaluated by human annotators. And here's the agreement score for the human annotations. And for the intention summarization and guessing, we just simply compare the prediction and the ground truth. So here's the situational awareness results. The metrics, if you just use accuracy, like how many reasonable intentions over all intentions. And the results actually is pretty good. Like for both 3.5 and 4, like 88% of accuracy. However, our criteria of situational awareness is very minimal, as we do not evaluate whether the intention is smart, because it is very subjective. So we just, as long as the intention is reasonable, it's not inconsistent with some like facts, we just consider it's okay. But sometimes, I think for GPT-4, their diversity of like the intention selection is better than the 3.5. Sometimes 3.5 just select like 5 or 6 intentions all the time. But GPT-4 did a better job.
Is this human evaluation?
Yes, human evaluation.
How many humans?
I think 7 or 8. Yeah.
Authors?
No. Students.
Okay, the students that you work with, not random people.
No, yeah. We recruit some master students from the class ITA. So, and why model choose unreasonable intentions? So primarily attributed to the models for getting information during lengthy conversation, or some information maybe they only mentioned one time before, and it's like very short information. They're not like repeating this information all the time, so the model will forget about this. For example, like as I mentioned before, like I think we should not include player one. They failed the class, like this is false information, and later just I agree player one did fail the quest, and we should not trust them. So cannot detect this kind of false information. So here's the self-regulation results. So the thinking one, our criteria is a little bit lower than speaking following, because we think the thinking following could be abstract. So even though you didn't like include much information, as long it does not like include any hallucination, we will consider it's okay. But for the speaking following, our criteria is higher. Like the speaking should be like very useful and informative, and the percent. So that's why the percentage of the score 5 in the thinking following is much higher than that in the speaking following. And also another interesting thing. So like for both like GPT 3.5 and GPT-4, like the score, like especially for the GPT 3.5, the score 3 is actually the most, means that they hallucinate a lot, like in the speaking following, and it gets better in the GPT-4, but still like it's still a lot. Yeah. And GPT-4 sometimes will improvise a bit. It just sometimes choose not to follow in the guidelines and output the real good responses. It is interesting that in the thinking, they still follow the intentions, and in the speaking, they just suddenly say something else. But the thing is that is actually quite helpful to the game. They're actually doing like some really like interesting reasoning. Because I manually evaluate the GPT-4 results, and when I see this, I feel like, damn, maybe this is our real social intelligence. Like they just choose not to follow the guidelines, but I feel like, oh, maybe they really have self-consciousness.
But in particular, if you look at GPT-4, right? Like, so 2, this is the same categories as before, right? So 2 is
Yes.
the literal copy, which it never does.
Yes.
And 4 is the like just paraphrase.
Yes.
Which it does a little bit in speaking following.
Yes.
So most of the time,
They're
it's
doing
something novel. Sometimes I guess it does more completely relevant stuff. Right? It's the one category.
So one category means that it does not mention the intentions, which I said that they just improvise.
Just complete.
Yeah, completely improvise.
So that's pretty.
Do you have an example?
For yes, example. Yeah, I try to find example, but all of the generation are pretty long, so I can give maybe not exact sample. So maybe they want to, in the intention, they choose they choose a very simple intention. I just need to support the team proposal, and your thinking still support the team proposal. But in the speaking, they suddenly give a very long reasoning about who might be who, and say that, and just doesn't mention the supporting proposal at all. They just give a very long reasoning, and those reasoning actually are very, I think they're very good, to a human, and just give a lot of reasoning. I think Peer One said that because blah blah blah, and in the end, I will just pivot to another direction, just not mentioning the intentions at all. Yeah. So we also want to know whether the intention understanding correlates with game performance, right? Because we want to see if we improve the intention understanding, whether that will improve also the game performance. So we compare the correlation between game performance and intention selection following respectively. So to control the variable, so for the game performance and intention selection, we only choose intention with the following score larger than 2. So the intention has some impact on the game. And the score is just binary, reasonable or not reasonable. And for game performance and intention following, we only choose reasonable intention. And the score, we convert Likert scale 1 to 5 to binary score using varying threshold. So in the end, still binary score. And the metric here is that, for example, the R here, it could be for one round or for one whole game. It's just the sum of the score divided by the number of the teammates, because teammates the lower team has 3 and evil team has 2, so we just divide by the teammates. And so if the R evil larger than the R loyal, it means that evil team outperforms the loyal team in one game, and vice versa. And we show how many times evil and a loyal team outperform or they're equal. So for example, in the first figure is the intention selection. We just present the game-wise results here. The round-wise results is very similar. The trend is similar, and it's in the appendix. You can check if you're interested. But this is a game-wise results. So the failure one means that the final results is failure, and it's for loyal side, right? It's all of the results for loyal side. So if the success, it means that loyal team wins. If it's a failure, it's loyal team lose. So you can see that either failure and success, loyal team always outperforms the evil team, the more. But in the success one, the loyal team outperforms the evil team by a lot. So I think this is due to the nature of this game. For the beginners, as a loyal team, it's just easy to lose because the evil team, they have more information. And if the loyal team, especially if you're affected by some hallucination or some deception, and you don't have the yes.
Sorry. So all the players were LLMs, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just easier. So it's just harder for a loyal team to win. So yes.
Oh, I'm curious, how many games ended in success with every, how many of the 40 times the good team won versus for the evil team one or the low team one?
This is I think we show this status in the paper, but I forgot. In the appendix, what's the win rate? But I will check it later. Maybe you can check the win rate in the appendix.
You know, is it close to 50?
No, it's not close to 50.
Which side wins more?
Which side wins more? I think evil. Damn, I cannot remember. I think evil side wins more. I think overall. Yeah.
Is that the same as for human players? Does the evil side also win more?
If they're beginners, yes, evil side.
So the evil side wins more, but when the good side wins, they have a higher intention.
Yeah, following.
Selection.
Yes. Yeah, so you need to outperform by a lot more to guarantee the win, because it is hard for loyal players to win. Yeah.
So do we know how the win comes? Like when evil wins, is it because they guessed Merlin because Merlin said they were Merlin, or was it because they failed enough?
Yeah, it contains both. Yeah, I think we also have the Merlin assassination rate in the paper. You can check. Yeah, we have a list of evaluation metrics of the game performance. But we put them in the appendix. Yeah, but just the main takeaway is that the loyal player need to outperform by a lot. So, but it still correlates with game performance to some extent.
But it could also be the case that like the intention set for evil versus loyal is different, right?
So they have a common set, like so I want to support and I want to express concerns, but yeah, but the intention set for different players are different.
Right. But so I wonder, like, because there's this inherent, right, like there's always a balance that the good side communicates better or they scored better, right? And they also know less, right?
Yeah.
So then there's less potential for hallucination in general, right? Like because like the evil player, like since they have basically perfect knowledge, right?
Mhm.
So then like if they could say something wrong and like, okay, that's in violation, so you get a low score for that.
Yes.
Whereas the good player, they don't know things, so they can propose something. Proposing it isn't wrong.
Yeah.
It's just they don't know, right? So I wonder if there's a bias kind of baked in to the metrics.
Yeah, I think it might be, but we also did one like intention following equals to 3, which means that this is a pure hallucination. And actually it's interesting that in this one the trend is still the same. So even for the loyal players, they sometimes also output like hallucinations. And the hallucinations sometimes can disturb the game. Mm-hmm. And for some reason they can win because like evil players, they have more information, but they're also not that smart. Like if you say something like hallucinate, evil player will also be distracted. So yeah, overall, yeah, but I agree with what you said. But overall, yes, it's a dynamic, is like it's a lot like many factors within, yeah. Yeah, so the next one is self-awareness and intention summarization result. So we extracted the structured context from the raw game record to evaluate self-awareness. For example, what's your name, what's your role details, and what's the previous results. And then you're thinking and speaking. So we also asked 3 human participants to do the same task to give the same setting. And for GPT-4, their self-awareness actually is pretty good. I mean, I think even a little bit higher than the human. But for the GPT 3.5, it's achieved like 70 score. We think it's still okay, but a little bit lower than the human. But overall, for the self-awareness, it did a good job. But for the theory of mind, the performance is like much worse than the human. So we also use structured context to evaluate theory of mind. But we also check GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 cross-guess each other's intentions. Because like in the self-awareness, we just ask GPT 3.5 to guess GPT 3.5 because there's self-awareness, right? But for theory of mind, like the 2 large language models can guess each other's mental states. So the first row means that the GPT 3.5 guess intentions from games run by GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. So this is game and this is a model, and also 3 humans are asked to do the same task. So you can see like for GPT-4, they achieve like pretty similar results like for both 3.5 and GPT-4 games, but for 3.5 the performance is much lower when they try to guess GPT-4 intentions. A thing that I forgot to mention is like all of the evaluation are done in the following where the score is 5. So it is a good following. Yes. And one reason is that the GPT-4 the conversation output is more lengthy than GPT 3.5. So sometimes the GPT 3.5 response is quite dry. I would say it's like not very interesting. But GPT-4 is very interesting and also it's very long. But I also feel like the GPT-4 response is more like human-like. It's more easier for human to understand actually. So I guess that's why the human actually can detect better in the GPT-4 results. So we more information help model to guess intentions So since deduce outer intentions require lots of context and reasoning, and we hypothesize that more information should help model to predict. So we do an intention guessing like evaluation by rounds. Like so in the round 5, they include information about all the previous rounds. And the results is not what we expected. So incorporating more context does not necessarily increase theory of mind ability, especially about human. I guess that's understandable because humans just don't have the patience to read all the context. Yeah, they just read the latest speech to detect. And the lengthy conversation also might confuse GPT 3.5. So this is GPT for games, and you can see that it does not increase at all because in the round 5, there's just more and more information. So maybe like the information gets too long and it's just harder for GPT 3.5 to actually like summarize from the conversation and the all the information. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of the evaluation. And there's some future work I think is interesting. Like the first is how to improve models' ability to in the intention detection. So like intention detection in a social context is important to improve conversation quality between model and human. And model needs to learn to use context and some common sense to infer. And I think social reasoning right now is still very hard for models to do, even for like social IQA, because it's just very ambiguous sometimes. And it's also hard for humans to do like social IQA task. But the limitation is like, it's still classification task because it just makes the things easier to evaluate, right? But how to evaluate open-ended response, that's the thing like we can explore. And also it's how to decrease or detect hallucination or contradiction in the long dynamic conversation. So models are very easy to be manipulated by false information without double checking. There's recently the paper, they said that they tried to jailbreak the agent conversation by inject some manipulated information. And they find out that in the end, all this manipulated information like just spreading over all conversation and goes into their like agent memory, which is a big problem. So imagine that if the agent become popular and in everyday use, if it's so easy to jailbreak the conversation, that is not robust at all. So, and we find out that it cannot be easy to be solved by more prompting, because we find this problem like, as I said that there's no file quest, but model just think that there's spell quest, right? And we try to prompt the GPT 3.5 again, just at that specific point said that, do you think there are any like wrong information? And most of the time GPT 3.5 just answered no, like they cannot detect it at all. And we tried GPT 4.0, is a little bit better. And in the end, we tried 0.1 preview, is much better. Like for a small set, it can detect most of it for 0.1 preview. But for 20 samples, it takes 80 minutes just to run the whole test. So it's just like about 1 minute for just a simple hallucination detection. And so it's just not very efficient if we use 0.1 preview in the conversation. It's just like just a lot of time. But yeah, maybe they can find a way to improve the efficiency. Now I feel like the 0.1 preview is just, no matter what question you give it to it, they just do all of the all of like maybe chain of thought, like all of it. And do you know that like they actually like those internal thinking, they also like also takes money to do it. So very, very expensive. So we just feel like, yeah, maybe right now we cannot use 0.1 preview to solve this problem. And also too much self-check will decrease the effectiveness of conversation, right? And so we're trying to think maybe build some knowledge graph. And there's some recent work to try. There's some light rag, non-rag, especially in light rag, they build like test index-based graphs, and then use that graph to do some rag. And we try that. We think it's actually pretty decent, but the generations, but it's not like the perfect. We probably need to do some like processing with it. But overall, also the light rag is not about the conversation. It's about like you give a context and they build a knowledge graph on it. But what if we want to build like a temporal dynamic graph on the conversation, right? So right now, like most of agent, their memory component when they use graph is like a well-designed graph. So you can select like knowledge from some external resources to help you to mitigate some hallucination, right? But if the context between really long, for example, I think I talked with some Amazon people, they also find out that when the model talk with a human and the human says something, and after maybe 20 rounds of the conversation, they just forget about it. And if you ask about that specific things, they say, I don't know. So can we build a knowledge graph like on the conversation? So it is very hard to do because you need to dynamically maintain the knowledge graph, and you don't know, maybe this part of knowledge is not important, maybe it won't be brought up later anymore, but you're still putting the graph, and you probably need to reconstruct the nodes like over time. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is a good direction to go. So also want to like learn like how do you guys think? So so that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious. And I remember kind of having the same question for Wei and when she was talking about the fluency stuff. But like, to me, this like, I mean, I feel where you're coming from. Like Justin and I had a paper that was also game playing. We also looked for engineering the different steps. So we did like something similar. But to me, like the idea of engineering all of this social awareness steps feels like that's not really how humans learn. Like for humans, we get a reward at the end with some kind of like long sequence of interaction.
Yes.
And like over time, we learn subconsciously what works and what doesn't, and how to socially infer things. And like maybe at some point we'll like read an instruction manual or take a class on how to be nice to people. But like that's, you know, most of life is kind of like learning by experience. So like to me, it feels like reinforcement learning is a way more sound approach to learning some of these dynamics. So yeah, so I guess I'm curious with that, like, what do you see as the value of engineering all these steps? Like, do the evolution experiments give us like some tremendous insight, or do you think it's impossible to like do this in, like a reinforcement setting?
No, I think this work is more like in evaluation, like some follow-up work. Yeah, we want to use kind of like this reward, like for example, how can you better follow your intentions, right? Because we have human annotations, and those are like signals, like you should improve your intentions, like. But I think the main goal of this work is to we want to provide like evaluation of the social intelligence in a grounded, just to make it work first. Like we provide a like framework that we can evaluate it, then we can also like later, try to improve it and put it back to see whether it can improve. Yeah, we also, I think right now we are, because this is pure large language model, and we also want to try to include human players so the model can learn more. And right now there are a bunch of undergrads trying to help this. I'm not sure how long it takes to make it online, but we are working on it. Like so, our aim is to each large language model have a machine learning backend, they can self-train themselves, and then like the human, like we are trying to include like maybe more than one human players, because for the chat arena autogen, like it's easier to have like one human input, but if you have like multiple human input, it's harder to do. So right now we are working on that. So maybe we will put online the model can like learn from the human input quickly. That's also another interesting things to do, because right now I'm working on another like about cultural intelligence project. It's about like how to quickly understand one person's values. So for example, we'll talk to someone you don't know, and he says something, and you sense their values, and you feel like, oh, how should I react to his value? Like, I don't want to be like offensive, so I just follow what you said, right? So for I think for humans it's quite easy to do. Like you have some people just born with cultural intelligence, like they quickly can sense others' values. But for model, it's not that easy to do. They probably need to learn. So another interesting question is that, but it's a human conversation, and it's usually not along with the model. And we want the model, you just can quickly capture the values like from the conversation. Like you cannot just wait for so long. And if we want to customize like a personalized like assistant, right? We also want you to learn that in your like parameters in your knowledge. And how can we do that? Like in maybe a few rounds, like they themselves can enlarge this signal like reward size to help them to embed the knowledge. So I think this is work is kind of like the first step, like with building evaluation. But beyond, like based on this framework, we have like more things to do. Yeah.
We've got a couple of Zoom questions.
Yes.
Both from Ayush. So Ayush says, first question, how would you synthesize the intricate details which would be crucial for extracting the real intentions from the previous summaries and discussions? Also, how do I tackle the catastrophic forgetting, or is that even a concern in the first place? And second question, GPT-4 has guardrails built in. So do you think that the extreme nature and intentions are diluted and the actual harshness, or say the degree of the intention is not fully captured, which might significantly affect the accuracy?
I already forgot what's the first question.
Yeah, sorry, I'll reread the first question.
Maybe you can summarize it into a shorter question.
Ask GPT, sorry. So how would you synthesize the details that you need to extract the real intentions, and is catastrophic forgetting a problem there?
How do I synthesize
from the summaries? Like, I guess, is catastrophic forgetting a problem in the summaries?
Oh, no. The summaries is, so I would say the forgetting is not that catastrophic, because for the intention selection is like 88% of 88% of like accuracy. So it's like 12% of them, like they cannot choose the intention, like how to say, consistent with the inconsistent with the fact. And also for the intention following, like there's not that like catastrophic, because like score 5 is still the most. So and also like what's the summary? Like the summary, does it mean like the summary in the game previous rounds, or summary?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I guess, like, how do you know what details are? How do you know that the summary is capturing the right details that will capture the intention?
Oh, I think the summary is, yeah, like we cannot ensure like all the summary are correct, but I think like we how to like design the summary format. We like just do this like back and forth, and I think every time we like manually check like a subset of it. So we think that it's okay, like 95% are correct, so we can rely on this. Yeah.
Okay. Then the second question is about GPT-4 guardrails, and how do you think they like affect the accuracy, given that some of the intentions are like assassinate this guy, and that might be running up against guardrails and kind of diluting the intention?
So you mean like so you mean like the GPT-4 like how to rephrase this question? So do you mean that the model, for example, like assessing someone, and they will like diluting their intentions? So
yeah, I think that's what the question is.
I meant that it can't output the text because it's like text means that it won't say I'm going to kill this person.
Oh yeah, we won't ask them like directly assessing. Like this not a word, so we just use another word like for assessing. Yeah, but just to make it easier, so I just use assessing. But in the prompt, yeah, we just said that we just ask them, did you identify murdering? If you identify murdering, the game is over. Yeah, so there's no assessing. Yeah.
But I mean, if there is like every now and you can, I guess like, is there no scope for you having like any possibly violent conversation in the video?
Violent conversation. I think I check all the conversation from GPT-4 myself. I don't think so. Is there any violent one? Yeah, because I won't game I feel like that's why I love the games. Overall, it's peaceful. Yeah.
But I feel like preference, when it comes to preference scores and RLHF, like there could be a latent bias away from like evil intentions.
Yes. Yeah, it could be.
So that could be skewing the entire distribution of the game.
Yeah. So it could be like, yeah, that's also like how should we maybe also it is also another question is tricky, that social intelligence, we mean that maybe they could be like a little bit creative, but if we use RHF, we just align with them like with specific criteria. And if we, for example, we don't want them to have hallucinations, that can be done by RHF, and we want them to be formative, that can also be done by RHF. But maybe they are aligned with that criteria, they just lose some other things in other criteria. So yeah. So I'm not sure if there are like you can improve like multiple angles at the same time. I guess it is hard to do. Yeah.
I have another question. So we talked a lot about assessing intention, assessing the state of the game. That to me feels like a very like a present assessment rather than like future planning. How much does Avalon involve future planning? Is that something that was? Yeah, I guess I'm.
Like you mean the agent can plan themselves, or
yeah, they say, okay, I'm going to say this thing now because in 3 turns, then I'm going to say this thing.
Yeah. So we don't have a planning component though. Like we don't have a specific planning component. But I get what you say that the game is about to lose. I need to do something, right? Yeah. So we do add that in the prompt. Like we tell them like what's like how like we tell them like you have like 3, you have like lose like 2 rounds, and if you lose 1 more round, you're gonna lose the whole game. So when we let them know, we also think about add like planning component to make it this harder. But so the first thing is that we don't have too much people to do this. So if you want to build a really perfect agent, that requires lots of work. So you can train a separate planning just for planning, right? You can use some like RHF stuff to just, not RHF, just reinforcement learning for planning. But we didn't choose to do that. It's like pure like large language model based, because it's like, so even build this, it already took a lot of effort to do. And the second is that like for current, because our work is also based on like the current some like Avalon game. So we just build on their prompt. So there's all like pure prompting. So I guess like we just trying to align with most of the work is doing, and just combine their ideas. So to make the framework like as robust as possible and do some evaluation on it. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? We don't have any other questions on Zoom.
Question: are there corpora of humans actually playing the game that are available?
Sorry, what?
Are there like, are there any available sets of like transcripts of the game being played?
Oh, I try to find that. So that's in the beginning of this project. I try to find it really hard. Yeah, also contact, because there are some like maybe there's some like online, like you can play game with each other, and I contact them, can you share the data? And they share me the data, but the problem is that the data is very, very messy, and also it's hard to, and also I think the thing there's one dump I received, there's no conversation, there's only vote results.
Oh, so they don't,
yeah.
There is a dialogue. It's just that they didn't save it.
Yeah, they didn't save it. So they just didn't save the memory. Yeah. So I mean, all of this online kind of playing games are maybe just maintained by 1 or 2 people. So yeah.
Web diplomacy was very valuable for diplomacy for meta building their Cicero game, because they had tens of thousands of games. With,
yes.
With 7 squared. Binary conversations, so like huge amounts of data.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess that's why like current research direction, like how can we learn from like small data, or like even we don't have any data of it. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Ziyi. I do want to advertise, so we have talks. We have a talk next week. It'll be Jasmine Ranji, also from USC. We're off the following week on the 14th for EMLP, and we'll be back on the 21st with Dalian from UCLA. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Ziyi, for your amazing talk.
Yes, thank you guys.